Okay, so I would like to request for all participants to settle down as I'm going to start now. To regular attendees, welcome back, and to new participants, a warm welcome to you and thank you for joining our Biztalk webinar series number 10 today. Assalamualaikum, a very good afternoon and selamat tengah hari Kuala Lumpur. Dato' Azman Mahmud, Chief Executive Officer of Malaysian Investment Development Authority, MIDA, Mr. Oliver Roach, EUMCCI Chairman, Mr. Luciano Azota, EUMCCI Deputy Chairman, EUMCCI Board of Directors, Mr. Sven Schneider, EUMCCI CEO, the Excellencies from various EU embassies, Tan Sri, Dato', distinguished guests, and members from media, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, Dato' Azman, and to all Muslim attendees at this webinar session, I wish you and your family a blessed Ramadan. May Allah give us the strength to meet the needs of this entire holy Ramadan month, which we have about 9 or 10 more days to go before we hopefully get to celebrate Hari Raya Aidilfitri, but of course with precise and stringent CMCO Hari Raya standard operating procedures in place. We have to bear in mind that we all will be held accountable if we do not adhere to being socially responsible or if we are not practicing physical distancing in embracing the new normal in our daily lives. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that everyone is still staying safe and fit, mentally and physically active at your respective office and homes. On behalf of the Chamber, I am deeply honored and would like to thank you, Dato' Azman Mahmud, for his presence today to discuss on an interesting topic focusing on Malaysian Investment Development Authority, MIDA, entitled How Malaysia is Coping with COVID-19 and the Mitigation Measures, and MIDA's Role to Sustain Quality Investment Post-COVID-19. I am Deda Rizwani from the Sector Committee and Advocacy Unit, your facilitator for this webinar, and I am welcoming you from the EU Malaysia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, EUMCCI. Now let us begin with a brief agenda for today. Shortly, we will start off with a welcome address by our Deputy Chairman, followed by a short presentation by the CEO of the Chamber, which unfortunately Sven won't be around to introduce, so I will do the brief introduction on behalf of him. And then we shall move on to the highlight for today's webinar with our speaker of the day, Dato' Azman Mahmud. And last but not least, followed by a final segment in the program, which is the Q&A session. Now, before we start, a few housekeeping rules, if I may mention here to the audience and participants. Please make sure that you have chosen good spot at your respective spaces with good Wi-Fi signals reaching out to you. This is to avoid losing your video or audio quality during the webinar session. And secondly, may I request for all participants to keep your microphones on mute at all times during the session so that we could minimize the video distractions. Last but not least, should you have any questions related to the topic that you may want to raise, please write it down at the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We will try to get questions. We will try to get Dato' Azman and team to address them, hopefully during the 20 minutes of the Q&A segment. Now, without any further ado, let us warmly welcome Mr. Luciano Pezzota, Deputy Chairman of EUMCCI, to deliver his welcome speech. Now, over to you, Luciano.
Thanks, Seda. Thanks. Just a couple of words, since time is limited, too much of our time. And first of all, I would like to thank Dato' Azman to make the time to meet our community. MIDA is one of the strategic partners of European business in Malaysia and of European business that is considering to set up business in Malaysia. So I'm sure we are all looking forward to hear from you how MIDA is adjusting to this new normal and how we can continue to work together. I would like also to thank all the European Chambers of Commerce that have co-organized and supported this event. I'd like to thank EUMCCI team that has put together another very interesting webinar, and all the participants. They understand there are over a couple of hundreds from both Malaysia and Europe for joining the session. Thank you. Back to you, Deda.
All right, thank you, Luciano, for your short and sweet speech. And now let me just briefly introduce on behalf of Mr. Sven some overview about EUMCCI, about the Chamber. As a Chamber of Commerce, our aim is to increase trade and investment flows between the EU and Malaysia as a gateway to ASEAN. We assist to promote, support and develop EU business interests in Malaysia, as well as to facilitate trade, commerce and investments between the two nations. Secondly, EUMCCI carries out activities that will catalyze and stimulate networking of European business in Malaysia with the Malaysian business community, business association, relevant ministries, official representation and other chambers in Asia. With many activities organized annually in multiple sectors, the Chamber promotes business network for the EU businesses, touching down to 1,600 direct and indirect members, and activities are balanced between few industries, namely the aerospace, automotive, automation and industry 4.0, construction, food and beverages, green technology, healthcare and professional services. And last but not least, the Chamber is also one of the largest platforms for European business and companies seeking great opportunities to learn about their industry, meeting potential clients or partners, or showcasing their products and services. And now, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the highlight for today, a discussion with the expert speaker here, Dato' Azman Mahmud, the CEO of Malaysian Investment Development Authority, MIDA. And in this platform, a brief about Dato' Azman. He will be sharing with us his views on how the current situation and projected post-COVID-19 on the Malaysian economy, our Malaysians' approach in combating the pandemic, where he will share a bit on the mitigation measures for MCO, CMCO, plus MIDA's role to sustain quality investment post-COVID-19. Dato' Azman Mahmud was named the Chief Executive Officer of MIDA in February 2014 after serving in various leadership positions in the organizations for over 25 years. From developing key industrial sectors to promoting Malaysia in various countries, including US and Japan, Dato' Azman brings a vast range of competencies to MIDA. He has played an active role in the review of the Promotion Investment Act 1986, establishment of the strategic councils for the catalytic subsectors identified under the 11th Malaysia Plan, and setup of the Incentive, Coordination and Collaboration Office in MIDA. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please let me give a warm welcome to our speaker of the day, Dato' Azman Mahmud, to present his topic. Now, I'm passing on to you the session, Dato'.
Thank you very much, Dida, for your kind introduction. And hello to all members of and participants at this webinar, especially also to Mr. Luciano Rosetto, the Deputy Chairman, as well as other members of the Committee of the EU Chamber of Commerce in Malaysia. And I hope today everyone is in good health, and I would like to thank again EU Malaysia Chamber for the opportunity, inviting me to address this seminar or webinar. And MIDA is pleased to be part of this discussion. And I have a few of my team here, in fact, listening to all of you and probably interject during our question and answer. Despite of the current challenges surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic, I'm glad that both organizations continue to focus on adding value to our industry stakeholders. And we are actually in the new normal. I'm sure you agree with me. We are in the new normal era where we have no choice but to leverage effective digital technologies in our strategies. And therefore, this webinar is indeed an excellent approach to communicate and update all stakeholders present today. Today, I'll be focusing on three main points, and they are the impact of the COVID-19 on Malaysian economy, Malaysia's approach in combating the pandemic, where I will share the mitigation measures that the country has been putting in place. And last but not least, moving forward, WIDA's role in sustaining investment in moving the country forward. Ladies and gentlemen, the outbreak has impacted social and economic activities across the globe. And many studies projected a downward economic trend. Given the close interdependence of global value chains, UNCTAD forecasted a significant downward trend of FDIs flows by minus 30 to 40% to minus 40% actually. In fact, in Malaysia, our central bank projected that our country's growth to be between minus 2% to 0.5% this year. This is a sharp decline from 4.3% in 2019. The decline is also due to the volatility of global crude oil prices and also the continued supply disruptions in the commodity sector. In fact, yesterday, the central bank has made an announcement that the country's economic growth had moderated to 0.7% in Q1 this year, amidst of the challenging global economy and also trade environment, mainly due to this pandemic. Movement restrictions, including international and domestic travel restriction, limited work and operating hours, and also the mandatory social distancing, significantly curtail economic activity. The Malaysian economy is expected to gradually pick up in the second half of this year. And according to MIER, or the Malaysian Institute of Economic Research, which actually has projected a negative growth of minus 8.6% for manufacturing sector. And according to them, the industries that are affected by this pandemic include, which is obviously to all of you too, tourism, aerospace, automotive, chemical, medical devices, and to a lesser extent, electronics, as well as metal, machinery, and parts. The Malaysian manufacturing sector came under heavy pressure during April this year as measures implemented to tackle the spread of COVID-19 have caused firms to suspend production or operate well below their capacity. Based on the survey by FMM and MIDA, the movement control order has severely impacted the manufacturing sector, especially the what we call the 3+2, the E&E, chemical, machinery equipment, aerospace, and medical devices, which translated into about 21 billion financial losses, 40 billion ringgit export losses, and could cause 190,000 jobs. Based on recent MIDF research, the overall industrial production index declined by minus 4% year on year in March 2020, and first contraction since December 2015 actually, and the steepest since September 2009. This is arising from this disruption of overall supply and demand chain domestically and globally due to the COVID-19 and movement control order, which began in March 2020. Total exports fell by minus 4.7% year on year, and export of E&E products in particular, which hold the largest share of our total export, contracted by 13.9% year on year. Manufacturing sales went down by 3% year on year in March And major products such as E&E, chemical, and motor vehicles recorded a decline during the MCO period. So that is the findings by MIDF research. The movement controls and lockdowns in major economies like US, EU, and Asia has impeded global demand and eventually exports performances. The plunge in the global crude oil prices has added pressure to oil exporting countries, including Malaysia. So due to the challenging domestic and external environment, MIDF research forecasted the industrial production index to decline further by 2.9% in 2020. In the face of this pandemic, Malaysia has taken a proactive and responsive measures in balancing the public health, economic sustainability, and also the livelihood of the people. During the MCO, MIDA has been instrumental in the evaluation process by providing pertinent inputs to MITI for the final approval to the companies. While many of us were working from home since the beginning of the MCO, we have officers, MIDA officers, actually stationed at MITI around the clock, 24/7, to facilitate the approval process for companies to operate. During MCO, MIDA continued to evaluate investment applications, as well as the applications for duty import and also sales tax exemptions. The National Committee on Investment also met every week to consider those investment applications. What is more important now is for companies to comply with the standard operating procedures, the SOPs, which a lot of work and time has been put in together with the government side as well as the industry side. So thank you to all the industry associations that have contributed to formation of the and completion of the SOPs that has been established with the respective sectors. So this would be our new normal, at least in the near future, or until the new vaccines is coming to the market. So it is important to note that with the actual number of COVID-19 cases in the country shows a lower trajectory compared to the initial forecast. The war against COVID-19, however, it's still not over yet. To reduce the economic impact of COVID-19 and sustain businesses, the government has put in place stimulus package valued at 58 billion US dollars or 260 billion ringgit. And then this Prihatin economic package does not only addresses the adverse health and social impact of the ongoing outbreak, but also supporting businesses through the 100 billion allocation. The package, which is 18% of our GDP, is the third largest package in the world after Germany and also Britain. Some measures within the package that are relevant to companies include the introduction of the Employer Advisory Services Program by EPF or Employees Provident Fund to assist employers to evaluate payment deferment options, as well as restructure and reschedule employers' EPF contributions. Monthly wage, the next one is the monthly wage subsidy between 600 to 1,200 ringgit for employees earning less than 4,000 ringgit per month. And the third one is the monthly wage, a reduction of 25% for the levy on foreign workers for all companies with work permits that expire during the period of 1st April to 31st December 2020. Next is there is also an allocation for tiered discount of 15% to 50% on companies' monthly electricity bills. So additionally, the government continues to encourage companies to engage in innovative and productive activities, such as the adoption of automation and digitalization of business processes. This includes the call for companies to leverage the accelerated capital allowances over a 2-year period on machinery and equipment, including ICT. Ladies and gentlemen, Malaysia will remain as an investor-friendly destination for long-term growth, both actually for foreign and domestic businesses alike. As highlighted by our Prime Minister, the reopening of economic sectors will be followed by the implementation of Malaysia's economic recovery strategy. The government and the private sector will need to strengthen our partnership to revitalize and reform the nation's economy in facing the new global landscape post-COVID-19. One major initiative to be undertaken by MIDA is the establishment of a mechanism in MIDA to facilitate all necessary approvals required at the federal, state, and local authority levels. This is to ensure that the investment that has already been committed in Malaysia will have a speedy implementation, especially for those in manufacturing sector. Just to share with you, during the period of 2015 through 2019, a total of 3,809 manufacturing projects were approved. Of these, 2,749 projects have been implemented, of which 201 or 5.3% were at the stage of factory construction and machinery installation. A total of 1,015 projects yet to be implemented due to many reasons. The pandemic and the MCO would further delay the implementation of these projects. With the establishment of this mechanism in MIDA, we expect that these 1,000 over projects will be implemented, and this will add an additional investment value of about 158 billion ringgit to the economy once they are realized. According to the Ministry of Finance, the MOF has set up a focus group to formulate the nation's short-term recovery plan, or what they call it, restart, for the next 12 months. Out of our 6 working groups, MIDA is contributing significantly to 4 subgroups, which are the healthcare operational requirements, building capabilities and providing jobs, growth and resilience of our companies, and the short-term growth and investor confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, MIDA has put forward proposals to Ministry of Finance, Malaysia, and these include policy measures to attract new investments and also encourage what we call reinvestment of existing players that are already in Malaysia, especially in the next 1 year. The second one is to encourage reinvestment by existing companies, where we have mentioned just now. The third one is attract investments in selected industries that are classified as strategic in developing the entire local value chain. Number 4, revive domestic investments. And number 5, improve the approval mechanism of investment projects, both for manufacturing as well as incentives. One of the main challenges arising from COVID-19 is the issue of supply chain disruption due to high dependency on China. In making companies' supply chain more resilient, Malaysia is offering itself as a new alternative base for Asia. We are attracting foreign companies operating in Asia to relocate and expand in Malaysia, and our local companies are well supported by the government to be reliable suppliers to MNC's supply chain network. So we are looking forward to have more European companies enhancing their existing operations in Malaysia, particularly what we call the lighthouse operations. Lighthouse is a concept of model that those who has embraced digital manufacturing and globalization 4.0, as well as exhibiting all the essential characteristics of the fourth industrial revolution in their business model and also their supply chain. There are two types of lighthouse factories that I would like to describe. Number one is the end-to-end connected value chain lighthouses. And this model, the anchor company works together with the value chain, which is the vendors and also the suppliers, to digitalize the entire business process. The second one is the four-wall factory lighthouses, and this is internal within the company. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think COVID-19 is disrupting all manner of businesses throughout the world. However, history has proven that Malaysia is a resilient nation, despite of multiple challenges faced by the global economy. In fact, if we talk about the infrastructure of manufacturing sector alone, Malaysia has built this infrastructure which covers many in the ecosystem, from ports, airports, roads, bridges, industrial estates, training and education, and supply chain in the last 50 years. So that is why Malaysia actually has positioned herself to be resilient despite of multiple challenges, and we hope that we are going to be able to overcome this in the shortest possible time. In fact, Malaysia's status as a resilient nation is well supported by the World Bank in its recent statement, and according to their economist, Mr. Richard Rackert, Malaysia is more resilient than many other countries. It has, among others, a diversified economic structure and a sound track record of macroeconomic management. This is further attested by the IMF projections of Malaysia's gross domestic product. The fund anticipates for our economy to grow at a rate of 9% next year. So it sounds very promising. And the sharp increase is from the expected 1.7% contraction in 2020. This positions Malaysia as the fastest growing economy among ASEAN, which comprises of ASEAN 5, which comprises of Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, and Singapore. I would like to share that MIDA has 750 investment projects in the pipeline, valued at about 55 billion. And we are monitoring these high-profile leads with investment of about 97.4 billion ringgit. Malaysia has kickstart with 5. In 2020, we have actually approved about close to 5 billion ringgit. And the realization of the project in 2019 and early 2020, coupled with the high-profile leads being pursued by MIDA and the proposed economic recovery strategy by the government will make Malaysia more resilient than ever. While the challenges ahead is unprecedented, Malaysia is well placed to weather the storm. On that note, MIDA would like to assure our EU investors that once we overcome this challenging chapter, Malaysia will be stronger in rebuilding our competitiveness and remains a strategic investment location in this region. With this goal in mind, we will continue to working closely with each of you to support the growth of your business here. Please do reach out to MIDA officials for any business assistance that you may require. Together, we will brave this war and emerge stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato' Azman, for the very insightful and informational presentation that you have just delivered. I think a lot of the attendees are already requesting for MIDA to share with them the slides that you have just shared. So I will check with your team whether it's allowed to be shared with the public. And before we move on to the Q&A session, I think I will pass back the floor to Mr. Pezota. Luciano, would you like to ask some questions?
I would like to thank the Malaysian government actually for the successful in containing the virus and in protecting the economy, and simultaneously to thank MIDA for the relentless work to support the gradual reopening of all businesses. All these efforts have surely been much appreciated. But before we open to the floor for the Q&A, I would like to personally share an issue which, although under maybe not the direct responsibility of MIDA, is at the moment one of the major concerns for EU business. And that refers to the ban of traveling back to Malaysia of foreigners, including business owners, management, and technical personnel. And this is really at the moment a big issue that also we fear might somehow project the wrong image with regards to the willingness to support foreign direct investments in the country. And we believe that with the proper standard operating procedures should be allowed. So therefore, we seek your support in conveying this message to the right authorities for them to consider to revert this policy as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you for Luciano for sharing this issue. In fact, it's not only among the EU members in Malaysia. I think it cuts across, and we are helping to facilitate for the time being, but we will escalate this to the Economic Council, chaired by the Prime Minister, which is going to be, I think, early next week, if not mistaken, on Tuesday. So I will flag this so that government can take this on board and try to find a solution.
Thank you. Thank you for the support.
All right. Thank you, Luciano. Thank you, Dato' Azman. And now we are down to the Q&A session. Just a few questions here, maybe about 4 to 6, if time permits for Dato' Azman to answer everything. But if not, we try and pick and choose which ones are the important ones first. So the first question would be, Dato' Azman, do you see any divestment of MNCs from US, Japan, and Western countries, from China to Southeast Asia, and in particularly Malaysia, due to the COVID-19? And if yes, what are the industries mostly impacted?
So far, we have not seen a big divestment yet. I think for the first few weeks of the CMO, we noticed that there are, I think, about 4 or 5 factories in the textile industry, which decided, to close the operation. Well, not immediately, but within the next few months. because of the business reason, supply chain, and also consolidation among their factories globally. So that is the only reaction that I have so far. What we notice now is that all the companies asking the government to allow them to operate, and government has been responsive and responding, but of course mitigating between the economic survival as well as health of the public. So as it has been demonstrated in the last several announcements, we actually have started with only the essential items to operate. Then we have allowed several sectors within the economy and manufacturing to open up, but not fully, up to 50%. And then finally, the government has decided to, based on feedback from all quarters, and also research done by a number of organizations within the government decided to open up almost all sectors except for those in the negative list. In fact, the SOPs are being drawn up for those sectors that are in negative list for them to operate when the time comes. So at the same time, the new cases are being managed and below, the numbers are manageable. So, and if you probably have been following the announcement by our Director General of Health that the cases have not crossed a 3-digit. Of course, we are monitoring those involving the cluster of foreign workers, but so far it is very much contained, and reaction by the authorities are very fast. But I would like to highlight to you that the government is committed to balance between health and also the livelihood of the people, which is the economy. I'm glad earlier on Luciano was sharing with me, Europe is also slowly opening up, and hopefully in the near future, those trade between Europe and Malaysia, can start to moving on towards a better level of import and export between these two regions.
Yeah, Europe and Malaysia seem well synchronized in terms of lockdown period and now reopening of the economy.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Dato', for your answer. I hope Dato' Azman have answered to your question to the anonymous attendee. And to the second question now, to attract new FDIs post-pandemic, is there any possibilities of government changing the criteria for foreign companies to comply within order to get incentives to be approved? Perhaps putting some ease in some of the criteria?
Yeah, I would say that that is work in progress. In fact, if you notice in my speech, we are going to we are proposed to the government to have a more relaxed criteria, if I can say so. Because post pandemic, post COVID-19, as you can see, many businesses and countries are adjusting to the new normal. Supply chain moving to a location where it is more more or less risky, I would say, due to geopolitical challenges and many other issues. So in fact, we are reaching out to those multinationals in China to look at Malaysia if they need to have another location to continue to do business. Although the China business is still important, but I believe the reaction could be and have an alternative location so that the risk is mitigated. So we are open for business. We are always open for all investors. So please pass the message to all your colleagues in headquarters and in China and in any other countries that they need to be, because Malaysia, as far as FDI is concerned, we are part of the global supply chain. So our infrastructure, our what they call the bilateral arrangement with many countries has been designed that way, knowing that Malaysia is only 30 million people. So it is a place where we can find that operating in Malaysia can have a good efficiency and can enjoy access to many countries when you want to sell your products and services.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Dato', for the answer to that question. And the next question, I think this is a good question. We got it from the Facebook. Mr. Volker Fedig. He said, it was mentioned that about 1,000 projects are in the pipeline between 2015 to 2019 and not kick-started. What is the main reason for this delay? Can we have your comments on that?
Oh, actually, the numbers that have started are more than that. I think 2,000 over. What I highlighted is that there has not started. So when the projects are approved, there is a lag of implementation within about 24 months before they can start production. So for all these projects will be implemented at different stage. You got to buy land, you need to do design and engineering work before you start construction. You have to install machinery, you have to test, do calibration and so on. So not implemented yet, meaning that the company have their own target dates to start. But because of COVID-19, so many of them have actually what they call review the starting date of the what they call the groundbreaking, so to speak. But in fact, a few American multinationals have actually approached us to get permission if they can start during the MCO itself, to start construction. So it shows that different companies have different time of implementing. So it normally, from our experience, it is within that 24 months before a full production, and depending on the size of the factory or investment. If it's just bigger, in multi-billion-dollar investment, it might take longer than 24 months.
Okay, Luciano, do you have any comments on that to continue from what Dato' said?
No, I see we have a few other questions. So if we have time for one or two more.
Okay.
I would prefer to give time to our participants.
Okay, I will move on to the next question then. Thank you for the answer for Mr. Fedig. I hope he's listening in from Facebook now. And good afternoon, Dato' Azman. This is the next question from Mr. Joshi Bibron. What are the novel ways or strategies planned by MIDA to attract fresh FDIs and also reinvestments in Malaysia in light of the disruption in supply chain networks around the world and especially in China? How can existing companies in Malaysia assist MIDA in this effort?
Thank you again for the question, Mr. Joshi.
Bibron, from Bibron.
From Bibron,
Yeah, Bibron.
Yeah. Well, as I can say, indicated, if I would say we will be on, quote unquote sale period, meaning that, we will be a bit more aggressive than our current approach, especially on the policy side. That is our proposal to the government. So, I don't want to mention any specific details. I think I'll let the government make the announcement. I believe it will be pretty soon, which also covers, fresh or new FDI as well as those already in Malaysia to invest. I think, your companies have a very good network through your subsidiaries and affiliates in China. So of course, we can work together to bring your supply chain, for example, or to bring your customers, to have an alternative or co-location, China and Malaysia, to mitigate whatever potential risk that you have identified during post-COVID, I would say. So we are open for any collaboration. In fact, I think the association Malaysia Medical AMMI actually has worked very closely with us, and they actually brought in and introduced us their counterpart and networks, to consider Malaysia. And in fact, those few companies that we introduced have actually invested in Malaysia. So thank you. So this model can be replicated for the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dato' Azman. And Mr. Joshi, I hope we can discuss this further since we are in the same committee. Mr. Joshi is actually in our healthcare sector committee, Dato' Azman. So he works a lot with the chamber as well. And the next question we have from Mr. Winter, Marco Winter. Many foreign investors are SMEs. They fulfill the SME definition, but because they are majority foreign-owned, it is more difficult or even impossible for them to be included in some items of the stimulus package. For example, they can't automatically receive a SME certificate from SME Corp. MIDA has welcomed these companies to Malaysia as foreign investors, and they employ many Malaysian workers. Can MIDA now commit to give maximum support to these foreign-owned SMEs in Malaysia to also benefit fully of the stimulus package? And what's your comment on that, Dr. Azman?
Yes, the package announced, most of it, is for Malaysian majority-owned companies. I would say that these are the new group that probably we have not explored or get feedbacks yet. But notwithstanding that, there are other ways that also, while waiting for government to look at this issue, perhaps to mitigate on the cost of the overheads, maybe you can try to talk to the employees to see how you can mitigate this together. But of course, in consultation with our Ministry of Human Resource. In fact, I've already mentioned this and had discussion with the Secretary General, and they are open, to be the mediator so that we can find a solution to mitigate together with the employer and the employees. That is one option. But if you have any proposal that you want to share on the this group of SMEs that foreign majority owned, please do send it to us, because as you know, the Economic Council meets on a weekly basis. And in fact, for us, or those who are in the economic cluster within the government, we work 7 days a week. So, you know, Monday is a meeting, so we have to be prepared. Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays is a work day for us to, you know, to go through all those proposals and present it to help what they call certain agencies, you know, to giving inputs for them to update the Economic Council.
Okay, thank you, Dato' Azman, for your answer. Marco, I hope you have taken notes and we can look at the next steps to that. And next question, I think this is from Mr. Rakesh Sood. Dato', you mentioned there are 750 projects worth 55 billion. Could you please share a broad sector-wise breakdown? Thank you. Share with us.
It cut across a number of sectors. I think most of it will be E&E, machinery, equipment, chemical sector, and also transport. So these are the four main ones. Transport, it covers automotive and also aerospace.
Okay, thank you, Dato'. Can we just, how many questions are you comfortable? Maybe one more, is that okay with you?
I'm okay. You know, I've got nothing else to do after this.
Okay, so maybe we take about 2 more if you're not, if you're comfortable and okay with it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just warming up.
Oh, you're just warming up. Okay, then we shall continue. Then many more questions. I have 20 over 30 now, but we'll pick the ones. Yeah. So the next question would be, MIDA is known to attract investments from foreign countries into Malaysia. How's MIDA's perception for the local companies who is expanding in Malaysia? What are your comments on that?
We actually, local companies, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So our responsibility is to encourage both foreign and domestic, because we believe these foreign and domestic investors or companies, they have to coexist. If the FDI is the anchor, then definitely, I know our domestic companies have to be their part of the supply chain. So we have been doing this for many years already. In fact, our numbers are saying that last year alone, overall is 70% of all throughout the economic sector, with manufacturing, primary, and also services, is dominated by domestic companies in terms of the value of investment. I think we have about 1.4 trillion, overall, that the approval has been given, as compared to 666 billion ringgit of FDI. So we're trying to balance, both sides, and we do promote and encourage domestic investment, and also, in terms of incentives, also eco treatment. In fact, we do provide some incentive in the form of grant for domestic companies to move up the value chain and acquire new technology, new processes, and improve themselves, so that they can avail themselves to support the multinationals that are coming to invest in Malaysia.
All right, thank you, Dato'. And to the next one, it's interesting that you brought up the lighthouse concept in your presentation. What are your visions on the lighthouse manufacturing for Malaysia? Should Malaysia approach it through FDI or to build the capability of our own SMEs who are also hungry for innovation? Is COVID-19 an opportunity for our SMEs to transform themselves?
Yes, in fact, this is the what we call during this time and also post-COVID is a real opportunity to reinvent yourself, especially Malaysian companies. Let me maybe add a bit more on this lighthouse. Typically, if you compare in terms of technological and sophistication between Malaysian-owned companies and foreign-owned, foreign-owned companies are much more sophisticated in terms of processes, technology, and all that, you know. So normally also they are the anchor that produce certain products, and the supply chain would be the Malaysian companies making parts and components and other type of services. So if the anchor can play a role in adopting the Industry 4.0, and then, you know, they encourage the spillover to the supply chain, then there is a very strong business case for both parties to seamlessly, I would say, together for both business interests to adopt these new processes and technologies. So along this initiative, they will also be creating a lot of opportunities, whether, you know, through local or also foreign technologies, to provide solutions to this lighthouse cluster, I would say. Giving you an example, if a company that makes, example, Dyson, for example, they make, you know, high-end household products and, you know, high value. So if Dyson can cultivate this culture of Industry 4.0 that I believe they already do with, inside Dyson among the supply chain in Malaysia. So it will make production of Dyson to be more efficient and better quality, as well as creating opportunities for solutions within the supply chain. So this is a very powerful tool, concept, and as well as approach that will help the adoption of Industry 4.0 within the supply chain of each company. So that is what I feel that, and we have already actually proposed to the government to incentivize this. And actually, we have many programs for the anchor company to you know, to enjoy some of these incentives, as well as the supply chain, and it's all available and it's already announced as a policy. So please do reach out to our officers, you know, to get more information on how to, you know, start your own what you call lighthouse within EU chamber. In fact, Luciano, if I can, you know, we do a pilot with together, maybe we select a few companies as a showcase so that others can emulate. I think it will make your business among your members and also your supply chain is going to be more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very glad to do that, because actually I was going to comment that the government places a lot of emphasis on the 4.0, but for timing reason, somehow it seems that after the big effort on the readiness assessment, due to the COVID, obviously this is a topic that also the new government has embraced, but due to the COVID and maybe a bit of red tape, it seems we lost a bit of traction, whereas I agree with you, it's very important to rebuild momentum and make sure that we continue to push for the transformation towards 4.0 and overall the digital transformation by supporting the companies that alone do not have the expertise, do not have the access to the resources that are needed.
Yes.
So, very glad to discuss and find those champions and create some cases that can be emulated and be used as also motivational factors for the others to follow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Agreed with Luciano. We will be looking forward to work with your team too, Dato'. And just one more last question, maybe, if you could take this in.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, in the presentation was mentioned that Malaysia shall achieve 9% GDP growth in 2021. Can you elaborate more in which sectors you can foresee the most of the growth?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
In your presentation, you mentioned that Malaysia shall achieve a 9% GDP growth in 2021. So can you elaborate more in which sectors you can foresee the most of the growth that will happen? Which sector?
Oh, which sector?
Yes.
Okay. See, this is the projection by the IMF. I think, as you can well appreciate, the countries are starting to open up their economy, and the supply chain is going to improve. We feel that, my own opinion, the export-oriented sectors will show some significant improvement. As you can see now alone, in healthcare, which is the PPE, rubber glove, is already, some of the factories are already, the volume is already sold up to first quarter of 2021. And if this trend continue, I believe there will be more investment to add more lines post-COVID, as well as the E&E sector, because you see more people are shifting the way they do business, like what we're doing now. We are talking to each other over the screen to a platform. So demand for sensors, demand for IoT, demand for what they call cloud computing clusters will be leaps and bounds. So and this is going to drive what we call our E&E industry moving forward. In fact, yesterday there was an announcement by I think one company in Canada making LiDAR out of Malaysia through Claron Malaysia. Claron Malaysia is a world-class manufacturing company making automotive related products for the world. So and Claron actually is a merger now. They have merged with Faurecia out of France, if I'm not mistaken. This is part of the EU companies. So this shows that things are moving in the direction of supporting the ecosystem of post-COVID industries. IoT, I believe logistics as well, because people are ordering and more deliveries, so application of LiDAR and all that will be towards more transportation and logistics kind of applications. And of course, our rubber glove industry. So these are the few sectors that I foresee, and also the what we call e-commerce, and will drive the e-commerce and delivery and logistic industry. Does that answer your question? I hope I answer your question.
Yes, I think you did to Mr. Luca Ferraris. Very lengthy answer, and I think all the information is there. If he's not sure, he can always reach out to us again, and we will reach out to your team. So
Yeah,
that will be
maybe I can add a little bit more. I know there is one question.
Which one? Yeah.
Local technology system integrator and how they can be part of the drive. What you call in post-COVID, you know, because the system integrator, they are also what you call supporting, like what you mentioned earlier, what you call the local companies participating in the drive on the Lighthouse initiative. So in fact, we can also, you know, Luciano, if you have a bit more specific after this, organize, you know, Industry 4.0 adoption webinar, and we can invite your member companies as well as some of the local system integrator to do a presentation on this platform and share each other's expertise to facilitate, you know.
Certainly, fantastic idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so that will be the last Q&A for Dato' Azman before we go, but I would maybe want to invite Luciano to just add a few more to what Dato' has said, apart from the adoption of the Lighthouse initiative that we're going to work on.
I would just like to share with all the participants that both MIDA and EUMCCI are already open for business. No, we've been actually, even through the lockdown, operating remotely. We are now back to the office. We are doing everything we can to transform ourselves and help all the organizations already in Malaysia or willing to consider Malaysia for their expansion in Asia. And we can be reached through our communication channels. And now that we're getting use and experts with these video calls, we can do that as well to have a very focused discussion. I think eventually this forum on 4.0 is a great opportunity to start to look more in depth at the opportunities and the initiatives that together we can spearhead to really make this digital transformation real on the front-end side of business for those that need to reach customers in new ways, and also for the operations, for the backhand of businesses that need somehow to be able to automate, to find new efficiency gains by operating at night, at weekends, eventually with less manpower to try to regain some efficiency and improve the systems, leveraging fully what the digital technologies make possible.
Okay, thank you. And Dato', back to you. Would you like to add a few last words before we all sign off from the meeting?
Yes, the way that we approach is, you can see more and more what you call measures will be introduced to open up the economy. For example, the earlier issue raised by Luciano, how the expatriates going to come back to Malaysia and all that, you know. So, of course, we have to be aware that there are certain health protocols that we need to follow, and that I think we have to work very closely with the Ministry of Health. But moving forward, I believe there will be more new measures to be opened up to encourage more business to take place. So that's how I read it, and you know, any issues or proposals or suggestion, you know, if you have, if you want to use MIDA as a conduit, we are very happy to, to welcome any proposals or issues that you want to raise. And we will share this with higher up and also my minister. And we are receiving a lot of requests, to have this kind of conversation. And we like this because we are interacting directly with the business people, and this can be escalated very fast because the Economic Council meet weekly. So the Prime Minister and the government, whole of government is committed, to revive the economy. In fact, you're receiving manufacturing companies, members of your chamber will be receiving our survey, what you call messages, and I hope to get your cooperation to respond as quickly as possible, because we are going to analyze and provide this feedback to the government so that they can improve all those measures that have already been announced. Especially, maybe the SOPs. Is the SOP enough, or is it too cumbersome, or is it too difficult? And perhaps some suggestion that you want to suggest, because you know best, because you are the people who is going to operate, and you know what will be the problems and issues that need to be overcome.
Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Datuk. We are also looking forward to do the survey from MIDA, and also looking forward to work closely with MIDA. And thank you, Datuk, for making the time to address each of the questions that I proposed to you above, and to share your views and plus additional inputs about the topic today. Well, actually, we have about 30 over questions that is not been answered, but to those of you who wants your question to be answered, you can always email to me or email to us at eumcci@eumcci.com. That's our email address, eumcci@eumcci.com, and we will entertain to the emails, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible to answer all the unanswered questions today. But nevertheless, Datuk Azman, thank you for your time again. Unfortunately, due to time constraint, this webinar session have to come to an end. I would like to say thank you once again from the bottom of our hearts to the Chief Executive Officer and team MIDA for your commitment and participation in today's session. It was such a great honor, Datuk Azman, to have you here with us today. And of course, to all the wonderful and loyal attendees for making the time to attend and log into this webinar today. Ribuan terima kasih and big thank you. We hope that each participant have enjoyed an interesting discussion and gained useful and insightful information throughout Datuk Azman's session. Now, with that being said, please allow me just to make two quick announcements before we go. First announcement is about the EU Chamber donation campaign. The EU Chamber is currently running a donation campaign which is called Memikul Bersama, or Together We Are Stronger. It is a campaign to support frontliners in the fight against COVID-19 in Malaysia. We would sincerely appreciate for any interested individuals, companies, ministries or organizations who wants to be part of this donation campaign and would like to contribute for Memikul Bersama. We accept donations in kinds of urgently needed medical equipment, while cash donation received will be channeled to the purchase of life-saving face masks, shields, rubber gloves, protecting gear, test kits, sanitizers, and essential items. We will also ensure delivery of those items marked with our campaign name and your logo to medical institutions and facilities which require our support at this point of time. Kind donors, please reach out to us via Miss Mary, my colleague, at her email address admin@eumcci.com, or you may contact any one of us at EUMCCI directly. And secondly, in the next two webinars, which is happening next week, where we will be discussing on topics related to women at workplace, where we will have dialogues with 4 panelists on women, hiring opportunities and e-commerce. This will take place on Tuesday, 19th of May. And on Wednesday, the next day, 20th of May, we will be discussing about online counterfeits during the COVID-19 crisis in Malaysia with the Southeast Asia IPR SME Help Desk co-organizing the webinar with us. The invites will be out soon. You can also follow updates on the upcoming various webinar topics for this season through our websites, newsletters, and emails, or through our social media postings. On behalf of EUMCCI, Dato' Azman and team, before we sign off, I would like to wish our Muslim friends and to you, Dato', selamat berbuka puasa, and to all attendees, remember to remain safe and positive during these trying times. Thank you once again, Dato' and Team Maida, and to each and every one of you, and hope to see you next week at the upcoming webinar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and goodbye for now. Thank you, Dato'.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you, Luciano. Bye.
Thanks, Lida. Bye. Bye, Dato'.
Bye. Thank you, Encik Shukri. Thank you, Derek. And thank you, Kotling.